Hi everyone, it's David here. The summer is already behind us, and I'm sure we can agree it's been the strangest one ever. Thankfully, we have the return of football to provide much needed normality as the nights draw in. To celebrate this, Beer 52 are generously offering free beer to you while watching our team from the comfort of your own home. They're offering 8 craft beers sourced and curated from the best breweries on the planet for free. All you need to do is go to www.beer52.com/Rangers and just cover the $5.95 for the postage. Beer 52 is the world's most popular craft beer discovery club. It's got over 150,000 members and they send a brand new case to them every month. Every month's case has a different theme. Past themes have included beers from New Zealand, South Africa, Korea and all over the USA and Europe. They're an independent British company and they're passionate about the UK craft beer scene and they continue to support it through this difficult period. If dark beer's not your thing, you can simply choose the light option and your case will come with the award. You'll also get the award-winning beer magazine Ferment and a tasty stack. Don't worry though, if you do change your mind, you can pause or cancel your account at any time. Just go to beer52.com/Rangers to get your first case of 8 beers for $5.95. That's beer52.com/Rangers. Hello everyone and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar. I am your host as always, and joining me this week is that marvellous melodeon of mellifluous musicality, Mr. Martyn Ramsey. Hello Martyn.
That intro gets longer and longer every time.
It does. I try and add syllables. I don't try and add words. I just try to make sure that any word I have has an extra syllable.
It's good to be here, David. Thanks for having me on.
We always get in trouble when it's you and me after a disappointing result. We usually get slagged off for being too critical. So apologies in advance to anyone who's tuned in. No, I think we'll be reasonable. As always, we are reasonable gentlemen, of course. Yesterday, Rangers went to Leith, took on Hibs at Easter Road and drew 2 each in an up and down game, as Martyn, you just described to me. I think the perfect phrase to describe what yesterday's performance was.
What was that? Did I describe it as?
A curate's egg.
A curate's egg, yeah. I just off fair.
Not a curious egg.
No, not a curate's egg, just a curate's egg. Yeah, it was. Sometimes it's easy to do these shows when we just haven't turned up and we're just awful from start to finish. We've been swept away by a team in form and just a bad day, aberration. You can easily mark that down as disappointing, obviously, as that would be, but. Yeah, we got the full range of Steven Gerrard's Rangers really in 90 minutes. A lot of brightness and a lot of slackness.
I was fortunate enough to be at the game yesterday, and thanks to Hibs for allowing us in. They're under no obligation to let in fan media, especially fan media from other clubs, but they're doing it along with other clubs, and I think that's very healthy because it'd be easy to pander to elements of their own fan base and say, oh, we're not letting him in because he's Rangers. So it was very kind of them to let me in. That's as far as I'm going to go with praising Hibs. There's going to be a fair bit of criticism coming their way now. But I watched the game back today and Rangers didn't play badly, as you said. And there was some really lovely play by Rangers. Incisive, attacking, multiple men moves where they were moving the ball quickly, one-touch passing. The movement from everyone was terrific. 2 goals that were absolutely superb. You can't say that they were rubbish because they weren't. I mean, some of the play was terrific, but finishing let us down again. And the defence, which had been obviously impregnable up to that point, did not perform well, I thought, yesterday. I thought that Tav, played well in an attacking sense, but defensively he could have done more at the second goal. And there were other moments of slight hesitation. I thought the centre-back struggled. That's the first time they've come up against a duo, and quite a physical duo in Nisbet and Doidge. And I thought that they looked uncomfortable in a way they haven't this season, but we have seen in previous seasons. I thought they struggled with that. And I think that Barisic is carrying a knock. I don't think he's been I don't think his form since he came back from Croatia, where he picked up a knock, has been the same since he was away. Midfield, I felt, was probably the weakest, and maybe that's because it's an area of the team that we know needs strengthened. Steven Gerrard has said it needs strengthened. That was last season's midfield.
Yeah, and they're going to be asked to play all the time at the moment because we don't really have the options available to freshen things up as things get as the fixture calendar starts to get very jammed indeed. So if only we knew that was an area we needed to strengthen 3-4 months ago.
Did I detect a note of sarcasm there?
How long have we been talking about it?
A long time, yes, I'll grant you. And it is a bit frustrating. If 2 injuries means that we are down to one option on the bench, and that option is young Jamie Burjonas, who wasn't getting on, let's be honest, unless there was an injury, then that's a worry. And it has been a while. I do understand we're not going to rush out and sign somebody for the sake of signing, spot on. But even so, I refuse to believe there isn't one player in our price range who's available at the moment who could improve us. I don't believe that.
Neither do I. Still got a bit to go, obviously, in the window, and elephant in the room as well, just about what needs to go out in order to do that. But it's not just last season's midfield, Davey. I mean, that's been there a while. And I'm just weirdly considering where the manager played, how the manager played, in his previous career, why it's an area of the field that we spent 60 grand on.
Alex McLeish couldn't spot centre back.
It's funny. It's a real weird kind of blind spot with some managers. I don't know, but and if he thinks he's got enough, that's his call.
He doesn't though. I mean, he's said that. He's come out and said we need to get people in there. I want a midfielder. So he's actually publicly said we need to improve in there. But something I wanted to talk to you about just before we get into the match itself. Online, as happens after a disappointing result, it kind of tends to break into 2 main areas of strongly held opinion. There's obviously a huge group in the middle, but there's usually 2 groups on different sides. One of whom says it's only one game. We have played 8 matches in the league this season, 6 wins and 2 draws. It's not a bad start. It's not a great start, but it's not a bad start. It's a platform to go on and build from. And let's keep calm and keep going with the season. No need to panic. And there's another group who say it's not one game. We've seen this before. It's the same errors, and our record against Hibs, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, Hearts when they were there is poor. We don't win enough of these games. This is the same failings. And I think my problem as someone in the middle, Martyn, is I think they're both right. That's the difficulty. And obviously they're going to shout at each other. But I think the issue is that you're never going to persuade the other side that they're wrong because they're not wrong. It really is just a choice of how you want to view said Curate's egg.
It is, because all we're ever doing, ever, as fans, after a game is projecting forward. What does this mean? Going towards the ultimate goal that we have for that season. And we extrapolate. That's what we do. How confident you feeling now compared to how you felt yesterday or last month or whatever. So the more positive side of the house would be absolutely correct in saying, well, wait a minute, new season, everything resets at 0, unbeaten. I'd say Livingston's probably the more disappointing result. Easter Road's always awkward, and we're fine. It's not absolute disaster. Celtic win the game in hand. So it's only 2 points, etc., etc. Well, it's still early, and that's absolutely valid. But it's where you start your line of projection, really, because Rangers fans will not be confident about winning a title until they see a run. Until they see a situation happen like yesterday and the response is immediate and strong. And that means in the latter part of the game. And there were some new issues yesterday. every game's unique. It's never a complete rerun, but we saw some similarities. The 12th game, I think, that under Gerrard, where we've dropped points from winning positions. There is an issue holding out. There is an issue conceding that vital goal in the last third of a game. We started the game brightly. The equaliser, I felt, came from kind of nothing, really. It was a opportunistic brilliance from Morelos, great cross, but it wasn't as if people are kidding themselves or rewriting history if they were saying that the equaliser was coming, because we were in a bit of a slump before half time. Second half, we started brightly again for 10, 15 minutes. Scored, could be more. Again, that kind of football that you were talking about earlier, David, the kind of pace and tempo that we've been crying out for, we saw that yesterday. Where a manager could reset and do his thing and get a reaction that's short term. My issue with this team, in terms of confidence and mentality, belief, whatever, is their ability to fix things live. Both goals saw a huff for 10, 15 minutes. Some kind of paralysis where we just didn't look ourselves. And that's my concern going forward, because that's what the recent history has told me. That's why when we lose an equaliser or something like that, or a team goes in front with 20 minutes to go, we don't have the time to play our way back in a game. We don't have the time or the opportunity for the manager to get his 15 minutes and recharge and reset things. It doesn't look enough like we have responsibility takers, game changers, people that say, right, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do this immediately. We got a bit of a flurry in the last 10 minutes, but we had 20 minutes to do that. You know what I mean? It was just this real anemic response to a goal, a setback, which can happen in football. I mean, the goals were bad, certainly the second. It was offside, in fact. But that's inevitable in sport. So what are you going to do live? What are you going to do immediately to press that momentum back? It's a cliche, but that's what champions do. It's what champions have always done. And until we see enough of that, that belief within the support, but the belief within the team, more importantly, that they can go on and do the biz, is going to be difficult to generate. I can only think of three, really, where we've rescued a game late on, especially away from home. St Mirren once, Kilmarnock first day of last season. St Johnstone at Christmas in 2018, and plenty where we've succumbed in that period. And that's the bigger picture, because a season might reset in terms of points, but that's completely arbitrary. It doesn't mean everything goes back to zero. If you have issues from last season and you haven't addressed them in the market, or you haven't fixed things or started something new in pre-season, they're probably going to be there still. So that's where the concern comes from. But still, not disaster, not panic stations. It's just a lack of belief within the body of the Kirk, and clearly within the group that they have what it takes to get over a small line in terms of a game, and then obviously the bigger line come the bigger picture, because they haven't done it enough, and it's a kind of self-defeating thing at times, and that's where good psychological management come in, or players who can do that for them on the part.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I want to start off with something you mentioned that I did notice yesterday, and was kind of reinforced a wee bit watching it back today, which was, I agree totally that we lose time in games to respond, because there is a period when we concede a goal or suffer a blow of about 10 minutes. It's not scientific, but about 10 minutes where we seem to be on our back foot, which is a kind way, I suppose, of saying that we seem to go in a bit of a huff and feel sorry for ourselves. And that happened yesterday. That absolutely happened. It was the 71st minute, and Rangers in the last 10 minutes pushed and were unlucky not to get the victory. But they did have that 10 minutes of just passes started going astray. There was a kind of jagged, there was a lot of hands being thrown up in the air.
Yeah.
Was me kind of, and that is something that we've seen before, unfortunately. The other thing that you mentioned that I wanted to talk about was this 12 times to not win from a winning position. And we saw it so often last season, especially in the second half of the season. That's huge because no title winning team, never mind a successful Rangers team, but no title winning team does that. If you want to go and win trophies, if you get yourselves into a winning position by hook or by crook, you see it out. And even recently, even last season, we saw that with Liverpool. Liverpool capable of playing some sensational football at times, but there was a lot of 2-1s last season. They had a run just before Christmas where they did enough and they got themselves into a position, and once they were in that position, they weren't being pegged back. The players spoke about it yesterday, the manager spoke about it, Scott Arfield spoke about it. It's game management. How do you improve that? Because is it a case of saying, well, unfortunately, these players just collectively don't have that? Or is there a way to say to them, look, you need to change your approach when you get to certain stages of matches? Because we tend to do it, I think, in different ways. That's the frustrating thing. It's not always the same thing. I go back to Feyenoord, where they got overexcited at 2-1 up. Place was going barmy. They'd got themselves to 2-1, and they got done on the counter. Away from home in Europe, they got done on the counter. But there have been other games where we've simply just switched off. Our passing's got ragged. We haven't appeared to know Kilmarnock away last season, where we've just stopped doing the things that we've been doing and we invited the pressure onto us. Is there a way of perhaps, I go back to maybe something Jose Mourinho used to do, where you drill for different situations? Do you drill for, we're 2-1 up in the last quarter of the game, right, this is now the emphasis, where it's tight collective shape and we get them on the break? I don't know. If it was just the one thing over, it's the one end result, which is surrendering points from a winning position, absolutely. But we seem to find different ways to get there.
Yeah, we do. Possibly. I mean, he was very big on that, famously saying, we'll go ahead, we will lose a player, we'll get a man sent off because I know this referee. And therefore,
that's
this is
Mourinho.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, and so we're going to have to go with this, and they would train and prepare for the worst case scenario. And he's quite a siege mentality kind of manager, and you can take that to too much of a degree, and your club becomes incredibly reactive. But possibly, of course, there's ways of working psychologically, or there's a big signing and there's a talisman and players suddenly think, well, he's there. Or you stumble across it, David. Team does do that, and then they maybe do it again, and that it starts to just build that kind of belief in a habit. So it can either be design or by luck. I mean, sports, it's just full of it, full of these examples. But that the reverse cycle it's hard to break. It's one of the most difficult things. One of the difficult things for football managers. I mean, how often do we talk about this? Not just with Rangers, but just outside. When you don't win something early, Klopp being one obvious example of a club saying, nope, we'll go to finals and we'll get so far, but there's something happening here, and the whole place is just full of that belief that eventually it will come, rather than it hasn't come. Shit, what are we going to do? And that breeds panic and it breeds nervousness and fatalism, really. But that's where managers earn their money. Do you keep saying we're nearly there? These margins are tight. We're not getting pumped 3-0 whenever we drop points. We are better teams than this muck. But we're starting to do the wrong thing in certain areas of the game, certain areas of the pitch. These are tiny margins that we can wipe out and turn these ones into threes. But none of us are on the inside, so we don't know what messages are reiterated, and if the pressure's been lightened or it's indeed been increased.
Yeah, we can only go on what we see. We can only go on what the results are, which is fair. That's what part of being a fan is. So it's legitimate though to question that when 12th time, and it happens a lot, and it shouldn't have happened yesterday. Rangers had that game by the scruff of the neck. They were in control of it. even then should have won it. Scott Arfield missing a chance. He was big enough to come out and hold his hand up afterwards about it. It was a bad miss. The second one in particular was a shame because it was a lovely run and great ball to find him. Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that that was going to be it, but it wasn't to be. A few things though to touch upon. I think that you can simultaneously hold more than one thought in your mind at the one time. And I think you can say that Rangers did enough to win the game yesterday. They made good enough chances and their finishing let them down. I think you can say that we most certainly should have kept out Hibs at 2-1 down, 2-1 up, sorry. I think that's legit. But I still think you can draw attention to another refereeing performance that has had match-changing influence on the match. I don't think that the positions are mutually exclusive. Yes, Rangers should have done enough anyway to go on and win that match, absolutely. But equally valid is the fact that Hibs' goal was offside. They were lucky to finish with 11 players on the park. And yet again, when Alfredo Morelos has the temerity to react to that treatment, he of course goes into the book. It's every week, and it is legitimate to complain. That offside had to be spotted. Hanlon had to be sent off in the first half. These are huge, game-changing decisions.
Yeah, can't disagree with any of that. You're right. You can go too far one way. You can go full Super Scoreboard 1990s and blame absolutely everything on the officials, or you can just ignore them completely. And I don't think either is particularly healthy. From the physicality thing, that is something. Rangers are held to a different standard there, it would appear. I don't watch a lot of Scottish football outside of that, so my opinion obviously would be slightly tinted on that. But there are definitely certain fouls that go on in a game that I'm pretty sure would be handled differently in a different fixture or indeed a different league. I'm a big VAR advocate, as you know, David. There's absolutely no question there. Even if you were being generous, linesman's very well positioned. It was just a bad call, and we can insert our reasons for that ourselves. People asking for the manager to be more vocal about it. From memory, I think he was near the start of his tenure.
It was, yeah.
I kind of gave that up, and certainly Coutinho was quite vocal from memory. It'll be a real. I mean, he's been in the job long enough to know that he's not in Kansas anymore. It'll be a real culture change, because in England, I think whenever you do start to deflect, any hint of deflection towards decisions, you are hounded, really, as being incapable of insight and incapable of taking responsibility for your own team and everything else. So I think he naturally, as a player, he don't think he really fancied shifting the blame. So I think that's probably a mindset change. There's ways of doing it. You don't have to go full on paranoia. You can be cute about it. But there's only so much the manager can do, or anyone else within the club can do. You can release statements all you want, or you can have the best and most carefully crafted digs in the media. If you don't have the power, it's all pissing in the wind, my friend. And there is only one club that does have the power at this moment in time. And that's the real quiz, that's the real game, is politically shifting that power away. Otherwise, our intimidation, our cuteness, our digs mean fuck all compared to the rest.
I mean, I asked the manager at the press conference on Friday whether or not he felt that we were held to a different standard, and got a two-word answer: no comment. Now, you can read into that it's maybe a bit pointed rather than just saying no.
He will believe that we are, but I think it would actually burn them as a professional to go down that road.
And in terms of, statements, etc., we made them. Remember St Mirren, Willie Collum? Didn't change anything. That's the thing. And I get that there's always this reaction after a poor result, But it is frustrating, and I think that it's that anger. It's going to have to find a place to come out because it's every week.
Yeah.
From an SFA point of view, I think a large part of it that's never discussed, and I mean they won't ever refer to it. I know that it's tempting for us to say, well, they're all just people who went to a certain type of school, for example. But I think that there's slightly more to it than that, and I think that one of the major issues in it is the fact that we don't have a lot of refs in Scotland. We've none coming through. People don't want to be referees, and I understand why, because thankless task, to be honest. But they're not going to have a root and branch review of the referees because, quite frankly, they're happy to have enough to do the games at the moment. So they don't want to go down that route of saying, lads, you're not good enough. This is dreadful. We've got to get better here, because they are so concerned about not then having enough people to do the job. Maybe we could look at the bigger issue then, rather than it being, base things about who they support and all the rest of it. Why don't we look at the actual issue, which is referees are terrified because one club and their supporters are allowed to have a campaign of terror against them? Maybe if we dealt with that, who knows, the referees might be able to get on with the job. They know that if they give a decision to Rangers, it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, hounding in the media. They know if they give a decision against Celtic, it's hounding in the media. It affects their lives on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sorry, I just do not believe that any human being cannot be affected by that. You're asking for a superhuman level of mentality there.
Yeah, you absolutely are. And so what we want our ex-players to do the same, is that in line with their editors' wishes? Again, where does the political pressure exist in the game? We know where. And until that's changed, we can piss and moan all we want. Again, there are ways of doing it, and I'd rather the manager said something than nothing.
See, personally,
there's a matter of fact there.
Personally, yeah. I would rather see the manager raising these issues. Yes, I think
factually that was.
Yeah. He has got to bring up that for a lot of decisions against us recently and point them out and get it into the conversation. And it has to be led by the manager. This is the thing, we always do the qualifier in terms of we know the PR guy at Ibrox. But if Rangers, PR guy or whatever launches out on this at the first press conference, if someone asks the manager and he says, well, no, that was nothing to do with me, it's dead. It has to come from the manager. And personally, I certainly would be saying, hang on a minute here, this is 6 or 7 decisions in 6 or 7 games. Yeah. We're having a hell of an unlucky streak.
It's absolutely legitimate, but in his head he must be thinking there Rafa Benitez in his list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like how does a football manager in a normal league, in a normal world that he's come from, because it's just not a thing in England. And when Benitez did it, he was lampooned immediately, and correctly so. This is a different world, and again, there will be a genuine, I think, kind of cognitive dissonance there for the manager to go down that road, despite how clearly legitimate his grievances would be. But it's, I'd rather him be matter of fact after every game. Because it's the least he could do. But in terms of thinking that would lead to some kind of panacea of equality, that's naive.
There was a bit of handbags after the match with Ryan Porteous, the Hibs defender, with our players refusing to touch elbows. I don't think shake hands is the phrase now. And when asked about it, Stephen Gerrard said we were bad losers. Interesting. But he pointed out that Porteous had been sent off when they were 3-0 down to a shocker of a tackle last season. A listener said a great thing on our Patreon site, and I want to sort of go with this at the moment. I don't want this no mark to become a hate figure or to get to get a profile he doesn't deserve based on the fact that he kicks Rangers players. And I'm kind of reluctant to go down that route myself, just simply because he doesn't deserve it. He's
one in a long line of jobbers that I've tried to make. Yeah, I've tried to make their name on that, tried to get a reaction. And we are we're delivering that.
Yeah, so we'll move on from that. The Morelos conundrum, Martin, not to do with his on field at the moment, not really to do with him. He played yesterday, missed a good chance, scored brilliantly, just an amazing bit of skill.
No idea.
It was wonderful to take a touch and then to still get the shot away with that power, all in one movement. It's why he's so highly rated. I mean, just was superb. But there's talk. Always talk, but renewed talk of Leo coming back in with a fee that looks as though it'll match Rangers' fee for him. And it's a difficult one because he's back in the side, he's scoring goals, and when he's doing that, you think, oh, can we really do without him? On the other hand, I've seen people point out we've never really had a full season out of him yet. Maybe it is time to cash in, and if we are going to cash in on him, it kind of the earlier the better, surely, because it would allow us to then go and get other targets in. You don't need to be an accountant to know that if there's 20 million quid coming in, then obviously that should free up a few bob to go and sign a player. But equally with Kemar Roof being injured for a few weeks, maybe it's not the great time. It's a dilemma. It really is. I suppose it's a dilemma that only becomes a serious one, though, if an actual big bid does arrive in from Lille or whoever.
If Rangers have stuck to their 20 million for some time, and I think they have, and that's a promise to the player, the recent promise to the player, and eventually a club turns up who matches our valuation. If they don't accept, we'll have bigger problems, I think, internally than we have at the moment. I do not see that going down well at all. I
don't think they would. I don't think that would be an issue. I think
this is life. A huge markup, huge bit of business, and if they do get close to that 20, considering what they've turned down, and it's exasperated some of us that we were willing to play that kind of game of poker, and fair enough if we do manage to get what we set as our valuation, and a club in Scotland that are hardly rolling in money. I just don't think that's something we can laugh at and turn down if it can be converted properly into quality in areas where we need it. Well, that's not going to happen on the 4th of October. It drives me bananas when we look at other leagues, David, for the other shows that we do, and you see these big deals finally happen on deadline day. Well, what's a club supposed to do with that? The selling club. Becomes a panic, it becomes rushed, it's not doing business well. So if it's going to happen, if a player wants to leave, I'm keen to do a deal sooner rather than later. And if the money's right, eventually, then get it done and strengthen where we need to. And it may well be another forward, because I can't bear another discussion about a Rangers signing target that starts with the sentence starts with the words, "If fit, he'll be brilliant for you."
Yeah, it would be nice to get someone in who was a complete thing, but again, finance, I suppose, makes that very, very difficult indeed. But onwards and upwards, and I wanted to have a chat to you. We continue our European adventure for this season on Thursday night, going to Tilburg to play Willem II or William II. So if we're the sons of, does this mean we're playing a grander? Yeah, it'll be interesting to. But family affair, battle of the staunch. But yeah, we head off to play Willem II this Thursday, and it's going to be a good game. I think they're a decent side, very attacking, which means there's going to be a job for our defence, but equally it should mean that there's space at the back. So Rangers are actually the favourites for this. Which I'm mildly surprised. Just because it's in Holland, if it was at home, I think we would deservedly be the favourites. But even so, let's hope that this thing about bookies seldom being wrong is correct. This truism that we spout a lot when we just lost a bet. But I've seen, and I've joined in with a few Rangers fans saying, I'm not really bothered about Europe this year, and if we have to not make the Europa League 1 year, then this would be a good year to do it, because obviously the money's not going to be as big, no crowds, etc., so on and so forth. Then the other side of that argument, and it's a fair one, is, well, you can't, that works if we get knocked out and we go on and win the league. But if we just get knocked out and then do the same thing we usually do, then that's going to be a bit of a waste. And you can't pick. Nobody is offering you the bargain to go out on Thursday. Unless someone has a direct access to God, then nobody is saying, if we go out on Thursday, we will win the league. Because yes, I would take it. I would take it in a heartbeat. I would run to you, and I can barely move today due to back pain, but I would run to you to take that. Or I would waddle over slowly. But it is, though, we're fans. We're allowed to do this. We're allowed to say, and it's a tough one, but, it would be 7 less games, which, has got to help in terms of wear and tear. It's more time on the training pitch and it's less travel. All of these are beneficial. Against that, though, I want us to go as far in every competition as we can. It's, the fact is, come Thursday, I'm going to want us to win. End of story.
Yeah. I don't really believe I've ever wanted Rangers to lose a game. We've clearly exceeded expectations in the last couple of years in terms of Europe, in terms of even getting to the Europa League group stages. I think we've exceeded the expectations in them for sure. In terms of some of the performances, I think we've done all right with a draw before. I think this year's slightly different. This is a tough route with these 2 games, especially in the format that it's in. This is a real tricky one on Thursday. Put it this way: if it did happen, if we narrowly lost, I would not be as furious as I was yesterday. Because clearly the impact domestically is more acute. That's the one we want to see the progress in more than anything else. Don't fully buy into the argument that it's as big a drain as it is. We've well worn the Thursday-Sunday thing in England. Europa League's a big problem. We've seen teams have that struggle on a Sunday. We haven't. In terms of the group stage games when we were in, not really. We've done all right the following weekend. I guess it takes its toll cumulatively, and I could accept that kind of argument. The performances are obviously different. Going back to how we started the show, the shackles are often off in Europe, because the expectations are nowhere near, the pressure's nowhere near. The team are naturally suited, the manager seems naturally suited to those kind of challenges, and players play with a kind of freedom they do not enjoy at the weekend. So, I think we're all always keen to see Rangers players do that. So it is a difficult one. There is no choice. No one has that option. There's no guarantee either that if Philantway scud us on Thursday night, we're turning that into Zhishkov and it's 2002-03 again. It could easily just be one of the other barren seasons where Europe's included into that bundle as well. I get the dilemma, and I get a fair bit of apathy this season compared to the last 2, and I understand that, and I wouldn't choose it, but I don't think I would be as frustrated as I've been with the 2 league draws.
I think that's a fair way to describe it. I want us to win. If we don't, I'll recover. But I still want us to win because it's just Rangers. I want us to go as far in every competition as possible. I like the fact that we have reclaimed a decent reputation in Europe.
Yeah.
I like the fact that this is where a club of our size, should be and should be doing reasonably well. And so all of that, I accept that, things have changed since Martyn and I were kids, when you could have a legitimate shout at, or certainly a hope of winning the damn thing. And maybe that's a wee bit beyond us now due to the money in certain leagues. But even so, I love the big European adventures that we've had. Obviously slightly different this year, but
if there's a year to miss out and all that, it's probably this season.
That's been said, and I can absolutely get that, where people are coming from on that one. But no, it's as I say, if you could guarantee me it would happen, then oh god, yeah, I would take it tomorrow. But you can't, and that becomes a dilemma. Now, travelling over there for this game, you have mentioned something that's true. We do tend to get a bit more space in these games. How do you set up for a game like this where you're playing a side who are going to come out the traps and go for you? They can quite often in matches of five up front, Willem Twee, the way their system works, but they do leave themselves exposed at the back. Do you go there and say, right, keep it tight, but we've got the pace stat and the break, and obviously Kent is an outball. Do you look at maybe somebody like Jones, for instance, ahead of maybe Hadji? Now, I'm not going to sit here and in any way claim that Jones is a better player than Hadji. He's not, but he is quick.
He is. He lives around the corner from me, so I better say this quietly. And no, I don't think I would select him. But that's the pace is obviously going to be important. It's the model. It's counter-attacking. It's right up our street. And this is the curious thing defensively. We've been through some real intimidating atmospheres and difficult football pressures away from home in Europe the last couple of years. And as a defensive unit, we almost look like we relish that. Warsaw, even going back to the first preliminary rounds in his first season. There was just this. Yeah. Give me more. Give me another half hour of defending and giving, providing this kind of resistance. Real positive defending, if that makes any sense. Not loose,
aggressive
not
front foot defending.
It's that kind of aggression. Because it's a different dynamic. It's a completely different ballgame because the pressures of not doing the job just simply aren't the same. And we have talent in this team, in this squad, but they execute that talent clearly better in different kind of situations, and Europe does for exactly that reason. The players we have, the manager we have, we're naturally set up to do that. If they're going to fling things forward, okay, do that, because I think we've seen a mindset defensively, as I said, that has stood up to that, and we have pace and skill and players who just seem to be more creatively liberated. Do we need SPL players to just speak with different accents all the time, or just come at us? I guess I don't know, but it's on paper, and maybe that's why the bookies are saying, nah, Rangers should do this. It's the kind of setup that plays into our hands normally.
Well, you know what I'm going to ask? Do you think we will?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I'm surprisingly confident. For a trip to Holland, I think Rangers will.
It's a real tricky one, and the two
absolutely
not having the two-leg thing, and that only being away. And certainly in terms of qualifying rounds, obviously Denmark is the one that jumps out. We've picked up a lot of draws in the Europa League. Porto, Villarreal, Rotterdam.
Good sides.
But no victories. So that's maybe the difference. If we had get a lead at Ibrox, for example, would I fancy us to go there and do a Braga kind of thing? Yeah. But yeah, so yeah. Listen, we're more set up. But then we should have been like that on Sunday because Hibs were hardly camped in.
No, absolutely, and this is why this Rangers team is so difficult to get a handle on, because in terms of Gerrard hasn't improved as well.
That's garbage.
We've got a match on Thursday against a team in Holland, and I think we'll win it, and that's not just based on hope. So clearly we have improved, but then yesterday, same issues that keep happening. And I suppose it's something that we'll still be discussing on here in a couple of months. But that'll do us for today. I'd like to thank Martyn for joining me.
Pleasure as always, mate.
Martyn has a book out, folks, and Christmas is coming up. So, Martyn, tell them all about it and where they can get it.
Oh yeah, Christmas, birthdays, bar mitzvahs, whatever. The 50 Greatest Rangers games were selected by the listeners of Heart and Hand from our very first to very recently. It covers the breadth of the club's history. And we recorded a few shows on that last Christmas, and I wrote a book that details all 50 in different ways, different focus on different games. But yeah, it's selling well. But if you're interested in Rangers, you are interested in Rangers games. It really is kind of up your street.
And it is an excellent book. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Great read. Right. Thanks to our executive producers in London, Miss Mitely and Paul Miles. And remember, if you like Heart and Hand, and if you're listening to this at this stage of the podcast, you probably do, then can I ask you to go to our Patreon site, patreon.com/Heart and Hand, where from just $1.99 per month, you will be able to get hours and hours and hours of chat on all things Rangers and a few other things as well. Trust me, you'll enjoy it, especially if you, as we all, by the looks of it, might have a lot of hours to fill again soon. So that might be a place to go that will help you out. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next Monday. Until then, you have a great week. Stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.